you are desperately wondering if you are actually gay or if it's just trauma. And this question is actually not going to lead you any closer to an answer because it's the wrong question. Maybe analyzing all your past relationships, your crushes, searching for something in your past to confirm whether you are gay or not, but you just end up feeling super anxious and it's keeping you up at night. It's not about figuring out why you may be attracted to someone, but it's about understanding the deeper layers and the fears that are fueling this question. By the way, I'm Danny. I am a queer somatic sexologist and a trauma specialist, and also someone who was tortured by this question years ago. Let's look at the deeper layers behind this question. The question leads to, well, if it is trauma, then I can heal and then be straight and then XYZ, right? So what is the fear behind this question for you? I don't know, but I can tell you what was motivating me. So when I was asking this question, my thought was, if it's trauma, then I can heal it, then I can be straight, and then I won't have to change my entire life. Because at that time, I was married to a man, and I was questioning if I wanted to sleep with women because of trauma, because I have a history of sexual trauma, or because that's just what I wanted, right? So if it was trauma, that would almost be a relief to me, because then I wouldn't have to re-examine my life, my desires, and my choices. It would be easier. When you have experienced trauma, your nervous system can start to associate sex and intimacy with fear and danger, making it hard to feel your own desire and access pleasure. If that's something you're currently struggling with, I've made a free quiz below so you can figure out your intimacy block, what stress response your nervous system may be using in intimacy, and then also how you can start to work with your body to start feeling more comfortable with your desire. That's linked below. So ask yourself, why does it matter? Why does the root of your attraction matter? What are you trying to avoid? If it was trauma, what would you be able to avoid? Would you be able to avoid leaving a relationship? Would you avoid judgment from your family, from your friends, from your church? Why do you need a reason for it? I'd like to offer another perspective. What if instead of searching for a reason to validate or invalidate your queer attraction, you started looking at your feelings around queerness in general? Because if you're anything like me, I'm willing to bet there is a lot of shame and a lot of internalized homophobia. We live in a society that is centered on compulsory heterosexuality, which means that being straight is seen as not only the default, but also the correct way. If you do not fit into the heterosexual cisgender idea, then it is a deviation, right? So being straight and also cisgender is the right way. And if you are anything else than that, then there's something wrong with you that needs to be corrected so you can return back to that center of being straight and cisgender. If you're asking this question, you are likely aligning yourself to that supposed center of correctness when it comes to your sexuality or your gender. Sexuality in general is policed. So there's been so many ideas over the years of what kind of sex you can have, how much sex you can have, the right kind of sex that you need to be having, what can turn you on, right? And this policing happens to everyone, but it especially happens to women and AFAB folks. And we can see this all the way back when Freud said that clitoral orgasms are immature and the internal vaginal orgasm is the best way to orgasm. And this thought led to a lot of shame and more policing and judging, like outside of organized religion, but like tantric and spiritual sex communities, that there is shame around clitoral orgasms, which is insane. If you're a consenting adult, pleasure is pleasure. It doesn't matter how you get there. So we can see this sex negativity in this question as well. Is my attraction right? Is what I want sexually correct? Or am I a deviant that needs to be corrected? My experience of this, I was sexually abused as a child. And there is a common untrue belief that the reason people are gay is because of abuse. I remember actually, like within the first month of me coming out, I was at this party and I told some man I was on a date, and he was like, "Oh, like how was he?" I was like, "Oh, it was she." And then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Oh, were you abused as a child?" With no hesitation, as if, first of all, as if that's an appropriate question to ask a stranger. But also, it didn't seem like he was being malicious. He was just genuinely that ignorant to assume that that's what makes people gay. This is also a reason that it took me a while to get comfortable talking about my abuse, is because I thought that as soon as I shared it, someone would be like, "Oh, that's why you're gay," and then almost invalidate my sexuality or my relationship. But now, doesn't matter where I like to eat pussy, I just like it, and that's enough for me. So if you are in a religious or a spiritual community, there may be explicit or subtle undertones that being queer is because of trauma, and that if you just heal, then you can be straight. And likely you have internalized those beliefs, whether you are aware of it or not. So, does trauma make you gay? No, it doesn't. There are gay people who have never experienced trauma that's sexual or otherwise. There are people who have experienced sexual trauma that are not gay. So, one does not equal the other, okay? And I also want to acknowledge the reality that things that happen to us can shape our desire. So, for example, if you are a woman and you are assaulted by a man, there may be a period of time where you don't feel a sexual attraction to men because your body equates men with danger, right? And we need safety to feel deep arousal. So maybe you're not into men for a while. That doesn't mean you're into women, but maybe it means that you are thinking, maybe I'll just try that and see what happens. Or you could abstain from sex altogether for a period of time. And that's okay. It's important to honor what your body wants right now, even if that changes in the future. So if you feel like you're gay right now, that's valid. It doesn't really matter why. What your body wants is a valid desire, no matter how it came about. And if your desire changes in the future, that's okay too, because you don't have to label yourself if you don't want to. You can be like, "Oh, I'm into women right now," or "I'm into men right now," or "I'm into this gender right now." Cool. And if it changes, so what? Also, in this question of, am I gay or is it trauma? I also hear this sense of, I need to get this right. I need to decide. I don't want to make the wrong choice or the wrong, I don't want to I don't want to make the wrong choice or call myself the wrong thing, because what if it changes later? And if it does change, that's fine. You may want something different in the future than what you want right now, or you may not. There is no way to know. There is an uncertainty of what you may want in the future, and that can be really uncomfortable to sit with, especially if you have been through trauma. Uncertainty can feel very scary, so you want to quickly decide, figure it out, and latch on to a yes or no. Am I gay or am I not? The black and white thinking is much more comfortable, feels much more certain. So I want to name that piece as well. Notice that urgency to figure this out. I've been talking about logic and reasoning to this question. So let's shift gears. Let's shift gears away from the cognitive, because I often find that questions like this, we can be trying to figure it out, watching YouTube videos like this one, reading Reddit stories, and we can spiral and feel like we're getting all this information looking for an answer, but it just keeps us feeling really anxious. Instead of trying to address this question using your head, I want to propose something different. What if you used your body? And it's really important to involve your body in this inquiry, because the mind has an ego. It has all the ideas of what is right and wrong and what you should want and what you shouldn't want. And those things can really trip us up when we're trying to figure out something. And the body doesn't lie. The body doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have an ego. It simply responds truthfully. I recommend starting with a menu of options. Many of us have no idea what's actually on the table as far as what you can desire or want or get turned on by. Mostly because we just don't have a big representation. We see a few things in the media, a few things in songs. Maybe we hear a few stories online or from your friends. And that's just really a small piece of the possibility of what can turn you on. So you want to expand your menu. Number two, you want to explore your desires um, through media. Sometimes exploring them physically can feel too scary or overwhelming at first. So find things that you can interact with and see what strokes your curiosity. So there is queer media, queer books, queer movies, queer erotica, queer music. And when you engage with queer media in this way, it normalizes to your mind and body that the queer experience is normal. It's not deviant, it's not an indication of brokenness. It's really normal and really fun. Work with the shame that comes up. Again, there is probably a lot of internalized homophobia about yourself and about other queer people, and ideas of what it means to be queer, different associations with same sex attraction. So you want to notice the shame stories that come up, and you can really get curious about whose voices they are, because shame is learned. And this is what I help my clients do, to map out what I call your pleasure pathway. Figure out exactly what turns you on emotionally and physically, and normalize those attractions and desires, and then process shame around them so that you can fully sink into that feeling of desire and pleasure without minimizing, suppressing, or second guessing yourself. So understanding your pleasure pathway is one piece of the puzzle to figuring out and embracing your authentic sexuality. It's simple, but it's often not easy. As a result of trauma, we often dissociate from our bodies. So our awareness is not really in our body. It kind of exists from the neck up, and we just become kind of like a head on a stick. And we're not really in touch with what's going on in our body. And this disconnection makes it really hard to feel what is authentic desire. Like we talked about, when we're trying to figure out from our head, we come with all these shoulds and stories and right and wrongs that can really cloud our ability to feel our authentic desire. So you want to build a connection with your body and learn what desire feels like in your body. That way, when you do feel desire towards someone or something, you can trust it and you can register it as real, as something authentically coming from your body. So after you've figured out how to feel authentic desire in your body and you know what you need emotionally and physically to feel turned on, the final part of figuring out, embracing, and enjoying your authentic sexuality is confidence. Because when you're wondering if you're gay or if it's really trauma, there's this inherent self-doubt. And this can show up in the way that you communicate about sex and intimacy with another person. You can start to second guess your own boundaries and second guess if you actually deserve pleasure, deserve to take up space in a sexual way. So when you learn to communicate about boundaries and consent and your erotic desire in a confident way, you're able to drop the queer imposter syndrome and actually enjoy your authentic sexual experiences. So getting to know your authentic sexual self and your sexuality is about getting comfortable with and really unshaming your true desires. So you can feel free and at ease in sex and intimacy, no matter who you're attracted to, instead of getting stuck wondering why you may be attracted to someone, missing out on all the pleasure and connection that you could be enjoying. This is exactly what the feral connection method can teach you to do, because all the skills that we talked about today, tuning into your body, learning exactly what turns you on, and communicating about what you need to feel comfortable and excited to another person, these are all learnable skills. If you are tired of feeling stuck in your head and you want guidance on figuring out and accepting and embracing what your body truly desires, click the link below to book an application call with me.
You like what you like. I don't really care why. I just care that you feel accepted and excited about it.